Anyway, we have Joseph Lee right here with us for the Impact Hour. And I talked to everybody yesterday in our inner circle, and I told them what was going on. And I had someone screaming and stuff. I thought I won the lottery. They're jumping up, down, and screaming. What I told them that WSAN radio finally has an office. So
Mhm.
we'll be doing that in the studio now. So we got some cleaning to do, some painting to do, some things we need to do. But you know, um, it was waiting for us to get out the coop. So I told somebody I'm gonna miss my office because I tell everybody all you see is here on up. And now I'll be honest with you, some days I just have on my pajamas bottoms and I just have on the shirt. So now I gotta get fully dressed.
You can still wear your pajama bottoms. Just keep a pair at the office. Your new place. But congratulations, man.
Thank you, thank you.
That's outstanding, outstanding. So
And
looking forward to checking out the new spot. I think it's speaking volumes to what is going on at the station. And when you're doing good things, you grow. That's how that works.
yeah. And we
Yeah.
are growing.
Yes,
Veronica went by there. She was screaming and hollering, and I said, "Ooh, girl, what's going on? Your place, Ron, your place." I said, "Thank you." I'm just so low key and moderate. And Sandra, aren't you going to jump in? I said, "No, I'm not." So when I was talking to Veronica, I said, "You know what? I'm not going to bowl on Wednesday because I got to go clean up the place." And Veronica turned around and told Sandra, "That's Ron's jumping up and down. He's giving up bowling to go take care of the new place."
that's serious.
I said, "Yes, I am. If anybody know me, I'm an avid bowler, but this is a baby that we birth and we want to get it right." So that's just
That's
how
right.
it is.
Yeah, so congrats again, man. I'm excited. I know what it means. I know what it's going to do for the community, and onward and upward. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's where we're headed. So
And let everybody know it's at the Barbara Jordan Center off Commerce Street, the lower level. So we'll let everybody know when things get in place. And, there's a lot of things we have to do. So somebody told me to keep my clothes on. All right. So I'm gonna hit you up with a tough one right here early this morning. This happened to my grandson.
mhm.
Uh he was at Ideal School. I don't know which one it was. They just found out that two seventh graders brought knives to school. And they was never notified. It was 2 weeks ago. They was never notified. The police were called allegedly, and let me use allegedly, so I don't want nobody to say he's saying this. Allegedly, they called the police. It took police 2 hours to get out there.
Mhm.
So they pulled my grandson out of that school and put him in public school now because they didn't follow the protocols that should have been followed. So they was
Mhm.
very upset about that. And this is not the only instance that happened to some of the ideal schools. I know they had security there and stuff, but the whole idea without reporting to the parents what happened, it's just it boggles the mind, this time and age where things are going on rapidly. We hear the things about what's going on in school. This should have been squashed, and it wasn't yet. They just didn't say anything. Then word of mouth got out. What happened? A letter really still haven't came out yet. It was a word of mouth. So I was sad and sickened over that.
Yeah, I don't really know what to say to that one, right?
Yeah.
Typically when there's an event like that, the families are notified, you know, and people are held accountable, right?
Yeah.
Um, so it just kind of shows, and I think most of the idea schools are excellent from what I've heard and known
Yeah.
people that have worked with the idea schools. I think they actually are offshoot or a creation from David Robinson.
Yeah.
I think that's who founded. We all know the character and who David Robinson is with the Spurs and all that. But
Right.
you know, um, schools like any other organizations are fallible. You know, and sometimes mistakes can be made. So I'm sorry that that had to happen, right? But we have a lot of things. We have a lot of weapons being brought into school nowadays, right? You heard about I think was it 6-year-old that came to school with a gun,
It was in Virginia, yes.
Virginia, right? And shot the teacher. You know, um, something's happened, right? Something's happened with our society, with schools, with violence, and we have to really take a look at our culture
Yeah,
and see what it is, that's going on. Back there was a time when educators used to be respected, schools used to be respected, um, but it's just kind of a sign of the times, right? And I know that there's a lot of reasons for that. There's a lot of factors that went into it, but I have to admit, I think we've talked about it on the show. One of the things that I noticed in working with the schools and whatnot, and just thinking about it, there was a time when it was kind of unheard of that violence would happen at that level, guns or knives or school shootings for that matter, or whatever would happen in the school. And when that usually started, or when that started from what I could see, was when they took, prayer out of the school.
right.
You know, I haven't done the research on it yet, but I'm pretty sure that things skyrocketed after, or shortly after, they took uh, prayer out of schools.
Mm,
And if you think about it logically, you take prayer out, what comes in? And it's a lot harder to you know harm the kids that you are with when you are praying with them every day.
right.
And sometimes I have to say that might have been the introduction for some kids to a faith, to praying, to understanding we're connected and coming together. So I think definitely there's something that needs to be looked into with that. But I think overall, we've got a lot of issues. And I think I was doing some, I don't know if we talked about this last time, but we're talking about suicides, right?
Yeah,
And we talked about violence. And we just got to talk about it. The creator of TikTok, 19, what was he was 20, was it 21 years old or 19 years old? I think it was 21 years old when he passed away here recently. But creator of TikTok is interesting that some reports were saying that the parents, I read an article that said that the parents were saying that, he suffered from depression. And
mm,
he really started suffering from depression for a lot of years. And he left a note, saying that, hey, don't be upset. Be happy that I'm out of pain. And really just, it's really interesting it's a tragedy on a couple of reasons, but you got to think about something too. When social media kind of launched, that's where you see a spike in suicidal ideation and suicides in this country with kids, right?
yeah,
So it started me thinking about social media as a whole. And then one of the founders, one of the creators of one of the vehicles of social media, um, he passes away, right? By suicide. So what does that say about that system, of social media and kids that are on social media?
yeah.
I think we have to be careful and understand. Really, I don't know. I don't know if social media is what it's cracked up to be. In fact, kind of seems from all the research I've done and from the things I've seen, is social media is more of a menace than a help.
You know, I read an article when you speak about TikTok. I was floored when I read this article. Somebody was at some fair or something, and this lady cut the line, just cut the line and went up there. You know, her reply was, I'm
So,
I'm too cute, and I had 70,000 followers on TikTok, so I have the right to cut line. But she didn't last because somebody yanked her. And guess what line they were in? The beer and alcohol line. That's the wrong line to cut in.
well, you got to look at, um, you got to, that's crazy. But that sounds normal. So what are the offshoots? What do you look at with social media, right?
Mm.
Um, it's a fake world that people always put on. You never see people uh, being really real on social media, right? You
Yeah.
always see them looking good. You always see them with their hair done, looking, like they're doing something really important, right? Like at 7 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, you wake up and your hair is done. I mean, me and you are the only ones that pretty much you get up at early in the morning and have our hair right,
It
right?
just,
Because
yeah, don't have to worry about nothing.
that's it, right?
I got that bald brush too. Somebody got me for my birthday.
Okay, you got a ball brush. Okay, all right. What you gonna brush?
I
I don't
don't
know.
know, but it was
Okay.
no bristles on it. It was just a clean little brush, but nothing. They say it's your bald brush. They thought it was funny. It was hilarious, but you're
That's
right.
that is that. You know what? I know some shenanigans that goes on in your house, man. I just know. I know. But on a serious note,
Yeah.
I think it's something to look into, man, because when I go and I used to do the suicide assessments and homicidal ideation assessments at the hospitals, that was the common denominator for suicidal ideation was bully and bullied or feeling worse because of social media. And then you have things like David's Law, where kids can be incarcerated, or you can be children can be charged if they say something that results in a child committing suicide.
Right.
Right? So then on top of that, you have one of the creators of TikTok that commit suicide, right? So you never know what a kid's going through. You never know what's going on, and it's really kind of an unfiltered medium that allows pretty much anything to come into your household, into your child. Pedophiles love social media, right? And when I say pedophiles, to those that may not know what that term is, children predators, sexual predators
Yes.
that are trying to find ways to get to kids. Social media, these video games, a lot of these kids are playing what they think kids their age, but they're grown men with a motive. Pay
Yeah.
attention to what your kids are doing. Please pay attention to what kids are doing on social media. We had a recent incident with our daughter where we, just popped in. My wife grabbed her phone. I was looking at, her little chat with her friends, right? And there were some things on there that we were like, oh, no way. So we had to pull her out of the chat, block a few of those friends, and it still continues to be an issue because they keep trying to add her back. So my daughter doesn't have her phone until we can make sure that everybody understands that she can't be a part of that. Because here's the thing: if your child is on social media, some child says something like they want to kill themselves or they want to hurt themselves, and your child says anything like, go ahead, we don't care, or just
Yeah.
joking, not knowing that child is serious, they've committed a serious crime. Look up David's Law, right?
Yeah.
Cyberbullying is a huge thing, right? Looking at mental illness, you don't really know, right? You would never know that this brilliant young man that created a social media vehicle would be going through what he went through and took his life. From what I've read,
Yeah.
that's what he did. So it's really, to me, something that we have to take into account. I really think that social media plays a role. If you think about the active shooter in Buffalo, New York, he actually live fed what he was about to do.
Yeah.
Right. So, I think it's it's going to play a major role in how we get back on track in this country and how we regulate, understand, and we have to at home monitor our kids. And you have to be like the CIA, the DEA, the FBI, any other acronym that
Yeah.
looks up what your child is doing. And that's how it was when we were younger. See, you didn't have privacy
No,
when you were young. Most of us when we were younger, at the age we were at, we couldn't even shut the door
that's
in
right.
our room.
Your bedroom door stayed open.
Your bedroom, unless you
Yep.
changing your clothes, that bedroom door stayed open. Anything you had was subject to a search and seizure at any time. And I know some people think, oh, no, your children need to have some privacy, their own space, and all that. I don't subscribe to that.
Yeah.
They need to have a spot that perhaps they can go to sleep, call their own. But last time I checked, kids usually aren't paying bills. That's your house. I need to know that you run the show. And I think that would help a lot of kids, a lot of schools, if the parents were running the show.
It starts at home.
It
I'll
starts at
always
home. And I
yeah.
believe, I don't know, I haven't, first time I'm hearing about that situation with the idea of school, but I'm pretty sure if parents are all in those children's business, those guns, those knives probably would have came to school.
Right. Yeah.
Not saying that kids still won't do something wrong, but there's a reason why we weren't, having so many of those incidents when we were younger. Now, we're going to be real. Yeah, we did start having some problems in schools, later on, depending on where you were at. I went to
Yeah.
school in Flint. I went to school in Grand Rapids. And I remember right before I graduated, they started putting metal detectors
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of the schools, right? And there was a lot of violence in some of the schools that were in some of the impoverished areas, especially in Flint. There was a lot of violence. And I remember when I was in Flint, when a fight broke out, you ran away from the fight.
Mm-hmm.
In Grand Rapids, people used to run towards fights. And I could never figure it out. I'm like, Joe, it's going to be a fight. And I'd be like, okay, I'm going out that door on the other side of the school to
Yep.
get to my car. You know what I'm saying? I ain't trying to be about because somebody was getting shot,
Exactly.
or somebody was getting stabbed, or somebody was, uh,
Yeah.
in Flint, that was what was going on. Then in Grand Rapids, it was happening, but it wasn't happening too much at the schools where the violence was happening. They would wait till they get off the school property, whatever, and then it would go down. So that's not the area I want to be around because people were killing the wrong folks. Not anybody should have been killed, but usually,
It's
when you're watching people shoot, they turn the gun sideways,
mm-hmm.
Thinking they cool and shooting like everybody else other than the person they trying to hit. And that's kind of how it was going down
Let
back
me
in the
share. Let me
day.
share something with you that when you talk about schools, I was in freshman year in high school, and these two guys they never got along. So finally, it came to the head, and those two started fighting. And I'm one of the few that say, "What are they fighting on?" I went and looked, and that's oh, they always fight. So I started walking away. So the whole crowd dispersed. I guess the fight was over with. So one of the guys was walking. And I was walking with him, and I said, "What's going on, man? This guy's always messing. I don't know what's going on." Out the corner of my eye, here comes a cab. I said, okay, we got cabs. The dude who was fighting called the cab. The cab drove down where he was at, came out the cab with a brick and hit the guy in the head, and they started fighting again. Now, who called a cab to a fight? This is true. I said, you got to be kidding me. The guy called a cab to catch up with the guy so they could finish fighting. Now,
Uh, you
I'm
got
not,
you got some stories, man. But hey, he was motivated.
yeah,
He
he was
got to the
creative.
situation any way he could. You know what I'm saying? He had a problem with his ride apparently.
Yeah.
But it's a serious situation, man. We got to look
Yeah.
at and the gentleman's name that I talked to. We don't know who his name is. People want to look it up. It's Cooper Noriega. Cooper
Yeah.
Noriega. That was the creator of TikTok, and rest in peace. And it's just a tragedy. I think that's one of my biggest opponents in working with youth is social media.
Yeah.
If you want to greatly reduce your chance of your child having some serious issues psychologically, and even possibly getting into college, because
Yeah.
colleges are looking at
They are.
social media posts. You can post something, and I think kids have an illusion that once they post it, they can post it a certain way, and it can't be pulled up because they can delete it. Snapchat, I've seen multiple kids destroy their future by using social media and Snapchat. And we've taken kids on multiple tours. Shout out to the Guide Right program, Kappa League. We've taken kids multiple colleges and admissions directors and counselors to say, don't do it. Don't get it, because they are increasingly using search organizations to see if a child is going to be admitted. That's now a part of the admission process for a lot of schools.
Yep. And
they've granted admissions, scholarships, and they found pictures of things out there where teens are doing things inappropriate, and they have rescinded their college offers.
Yep.
And I had a director at Prairie View tell all of our mentees, don't do it. He had personally sent letters saying that we're sorry, we're going to have to withdraw your acceptance. And sometimes they tell you why, sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
So they don't want people on campus that's going to cause issues and problems.
Which is a good segue to when you talk about falsifying everything, then there's that representative in Congress that falsified everything, Santos. He falsified everything. Everything he put down was a blatant lie, or as I say, alternative facts. So now he's being investigated by, how can you make $55,000 one year, and then you turn around and you're worth $1 to $3 million the next year? They found out he gave $100,000 to somebody to pretend it was McCartney something, and he was just paying. Where was he getting this money from? They want to know now. So they don't have to worry about Congress kicking him out. He's got to worry about going to jail. So all this, like you said, when you post this stuff, it's out there. You can't take it back down. It's done. Because he posted that he was sworn in already, and he wasn't even sworn in. So he took it down. It's too late. It's already out there. This is what the kids got to realize. You post something, as soon as it posted, you never could take it away. It's out there. Because somebody shared it, it's going to keep on going. You can't.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about this before, but I'll say it again. That those who I've worked in the schools, I remember a kid who thought it was cute to post a Snapchat of a airsoft gun in a school. And it was actually on a military base. And he thought it was cute. He thought it was funny, right? Class clown. He was arrested on like a Monday or Tuesday in a federal court on Friday. And the sad thing about it is, his question, Ron, was, hey, am I going to get to graduate with my class? That was his question.
Yeah.
Let's just say he didn't graduate with his class. He graduated with a new class, and they had numbers and orange jumpsuits.
Yeah.
Because it's a federal offense, just one little picture. And the crazy thing about it was, he was a senior, right? So you would think he would know better. Every year we have issues in the school. I'll tell you another thing, most of these iPhones or whatever, they have a button where you can share pictures, right? Mm-hmm. So sometimes teenage guys or teenage girls think it's cute to send pictures of body parts.
Yeah.
They drop that picture in a classroom, they can then be charged with child pornography.
Exactly.
So you got to really think about, if you give your child a phone, look at all the things that could happen by just allowing them to have the phone. If you have a phone, you've just given yourself a job. If you're responsible, now you have to monitor all the transmissions that kind of go on. That you have to pay attention, because they actually have fake, they have this thing called the dark web. You need to look it up. The dark web. They have fake apps. You think it's an educational app? It's an app that's telling kids, trying to encourage them to commit suicide, encourage them to commit crimes. encourage anything that you could imagine, illegal or wrong, is somewhere in that dark web, and it's out there. I even heard of the game Minecraft. They have a version of Minecraft that all kind of crazy stuff is going on, and it's, so if your child is playing Minecraft, now I have to see if I can get the name of it again, but it's a type of Minecraft, but it has like a name. I don't know if it's Minecraft Red or whatever the case is, but a whole lot of inappropriate things are going on in there, including content that is created by other programmers. So you think that the child is playing an innocent game? That's a lot going on in there. So you've got to monitor social media, video games, anything that your child can chat on, can interact over the internet or over Wi-Fi. You've got to monitor and watch, because it's a very deceptive world, right? Kind of reminds me of that movie Smile. It's a scary movie out called Smile, right?
Yeah.
And the whole premise of that movie is there's a very sinister looking smile. It's a smile, but there's something behind that smile. And it's not trying to play with you.
Yeah.
Right? So just understand that. That I think, and that's where it's important to understand the psychosis and the spiritual aspect of things, right?
Yeah.
The Ouija board. Don't play with that.
Oh boy, we were scared to death as kids playing with a Ouija board.
Yeah, you better believe it. Your kid is playing with a Ouija board. It's not a joke. It's not. And now they have an electronic form of it. Right?
Of course. Why not?
And that's a whole other segment. I might say that for the YouTube channel. What I what I witnessed with the Ouija board one day. I don't know if I told you that story, man, but maybe I'll say that for Halloween. I don't know, but it's that scary, right?
Yeah,
I'll see if I can find my college buddies. Anyway, when we were talking about that and what happened, see if I can find out the debate team. I started actually at a community college, and I'll never forget that night, man. We were talking about what was going on. We had different schools represented, and something put my spirit to say. And sure enough, there was some pushback when I laid out what I thought was going on with the Ouija board, and kind of proved to everybody in that room that that's a real deal. So I'll have to say that we'll get into that more. But I've been doing this counseling thing for 15 years now, and it's undeniable the effect that social media has had on our kids. Now, one of the founders of TikTok has lost his life, unfortunately. So rest in peace to him and prayers to his family, because I do believe there is something to what's on social media and what's in social media and what utilizes social media.
Yeah.
Right. And of course, there are some good elements. I mean, information can now get out faster, right?
Yes.
But you got to notice there's a difference between information and knowledge. See, you don't have to vet anything to put it out there on social media. So you could say it, and people actually think because it's in print or it's out there on video that it's valid. It may not be. People are trying to get attention, that you're trying to get those views. Like you're talking about the young lady who's had how many followers? 18,000?
70,000.
Oh, 70,000. Oh,
70,000.
So in her mind, she's a celebrity.
Yeah. Say it again. In her what?
In her mind. In her mind, in her world, she's a celebrity. But the problem with, and I'm going to use that's a great example. In her mind, she's a celebrity, right? And she's probably had to do some interesting things to get 70,000 followers. Usually there's some comments, there's usually some things, some interesting things that you have to do to get followers. Sometimes, something that talented that they can do. Yeah. But we live in a world of the Kim Kardashians, right? We live in the world of, social media can make me a star.
Yeah.
instantly, and then reality checks in for some, right? Sooner or later, it kicks in for everybody, but it
Yeah.
kicked in with her when she decided to get in that line and say she was a celebrity, and they were like, "Hold on, sweetheart,
Yeah.
you're not that much of a celebrity.
All,
You're gonna cut
all,
this
all,
line."
all I read was Yank.
Well, that was her wake up call, right?
Yeah.
Did she put it on social media when she got yanked out the line?
I was watching the somebody else was filming it, and you could see her being yanked, but it's people in front you couldn't see that good. But then she got up, and from what I read, she got up and stuck her tongue out and said, "I got more followers than you, and I'm famous, and all this." See, like you said, in her mind.
In her mind, and I think people understand something too. And we get off to social media stuff. See, we remember a life before social media. We remember when you had FaceTime actually meant getting to somebody's face and spending time and talking, right?
Right.
A lot of these kids, that's what all they know is their likes, how many people are following them.
Exactly.
So imagine when all these people stop following, or they put a picture out there and nobody likes it. What does that do to their self-esteem when this is their whole world? This is the primary focus for their social interactions. You ever see kids, and I have to work on my daughter. She's always on this social this device, and when she comes around other people, sometimes she doesn't speak correctly. So we're always on her. Look, you speak, you talk. When somebody says something to you, you say something back. Hello, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Those type of things at an
Yeah.
early age, because what's happening is kids they're losing social skills. They're not learning. They're not learning how to function, how to communicate, other than on this.
And they communicate that all day.
And
I watched a kid text one time. I have never seen fingers move as fast as that my whole life.
yeah, so you got to understand social skills, coping skills are on the decline. So what happens when your child is not getting the likes or not getting the modulation that he wants? Then that lends to depression. Then you don't have the coping skills, because we had to figure out how to cope and critically think, because we had to get outside.
Mm-hmm.
And there were challenges to playing outside. Like, you had to be situationally aware when we were playing football in the street.
Yeah.
You had to know, okay, wait a minute, I'm playing football, but I need to instantly switch over when this car comes, because we on the street.
That's right.
Some of us had to be in before the street lights came on. I remember vividly when I didn't make it.
I think all of us remember that.
Yeah, and then I was mad at everybody in my neighborhood because they heard my grandmother calling me, and I'm up here playing. We had the Super Bowl down at one of the streets down the block, and I said, I guess I'm about to take this whooping. So we finished the game, and I think we won, but I lost at the same time.
Yeah.
when I got home, and then you're in trouble when you get around the corner and somebody says, "Man, your grandma was calling you." I was like, "Oh, Lord."
You might as well forget it.
That was the longest. That was the longest couple blocks home walk, because I knew it was waiting for me when I got home, right? But so there's a lot of things we learn: accountability, situational awareness, critical thinking.
Yeah.
These are all things we were learning by playing outside. Now, I don't think the kids are getting a lot of those same lessons now. On Call of Duty and GTA.
Right. Because when we're outside playing and all this stuff, we learn how to think quick. We knew some things we need to react right away.
Yeah.
Like the kids, they react on video game, but in real life, the reaction time is a lot slower. It could mean life and death. I hate to say that, but that's exactly what it is.
No, seriously. I mean, you know what to do if you see a dog with a chain around his neck. You're like, oh, I got to go.
Yep. And running after you.
Yeah. And there's some kids oh Lord, you look at what they've done in this particular situation. You go, How did you? And then you got to go, okay, wait a minute. Don't have the critical thinking skills.
Yeah.
In their world, this dog with a chain on their neck is coming to play. No,
Mm-mm.
not necessarily, right? But we got to teach, believe it or not, Ron, we're in a position now where we got to teach common sense.
Yeah.
Common sense, the name says it all. It should be common and you should have sense.
Right.
But common sense is not common anymore. If you want to take away from today, we can use that one. Common sense is not common anymore. And if you
Yeah.
want to know what's caused a lot of people not to have common sense, it's all the information without any knowledge. I was talking to an officer in the military the other day, and they were like, these kids have access. You can go on YouTube and pretty much figure out most things.
Yeah.
You would come over, we were trying to figure out the water heater, right? Actually, no. Yeah, you would come over and try to figure out the water heater. One of our friends, Eddie, came over and we tried to look at the water heater too and try to fix it, right?
Yeah.
We were able to put in the exact situation, find out exactly what was going on with the water heater. Now, did I fix it? No, because I'm not a plumber, right? But if I was a plumber, I would have known exactly what to do, how to do that. I know what is in my skill set.
Right.
I work on people's minds, not on people's plumbing. That's not my department. You know what I'm saying? So that's my area of expertise. Why? Because I've had to have thousands of hours of supervised training. Then I had to pass a state board, had to have a master's degree, that top one, to actually do this.
Yeah.
Now, just because you have access, now there's people that have counseling information and all that online, but are they licensed? Perfect example of that is rest in peace, Kevin Samuels. Actually, one of my one of my past fraternity brothers, right? That was very popular on social media and very blunt with what he would say, and there would be some truth to a lot of what he said. But did
Yeah.
anybody check his credentials to give marriage therapy or relationship therapy? A lot of people tuned in. Did you even know if this man was married? No, but he's given a lot of advice, a lot of information, and maybe some of it had some knowledge to it, but for the most part, it was some pretty rough and crass stuff that he was saying, and he wasn't licensed, as far as I know, to
Yeah.
get that information. So, maybe there were some common sense type things that were kind of coming out there, but it's amazing we don't vet the people that give us the information, or vet the information a lot of times, these younger kids anyway, that they get. So we got all this information coming out here, very little knowledge or processes to screen this information that's going out here. And what it's causing is a lot of kids to be misled. What is valid or sound? These are some logic terms, right? Something can be valid, but not sound.
Yeah.
Right? It could have some truth to it, but it's really not going to hold a lot of water. And if you look at that, understand that, if you understand that concept, you would know how to deal with what we see with our politicians, what's going on with the January 6th committee, what's going on with the Republican Party. We are in a scary situation with what's going on in this country. If you understand politics, the bottom degree is political science. So if you want to talk about some politics and what's going on, look at what just happened with Kevin McCarthy. Now, they're saying that the Republicans are saying, oh, well, it's healthy to have a healthy debate and all that. It's not healthy to have 17 votes for a speaker. And then on top of that, that speaker never got the majority. 6 people decided not to vote. And that's how he ended up getting the speakership.
Yeah.
And look at the rules that they're implementing before he even The ink is even dry on him getting the speakership. Stand by and watch and see what is going on. And you got to understand something. There's democracies and there's authoritarian style governments. America is growing closer and closer to an authoritarian style government. And got to look at what happened in Brazil just
Yeah.
yesterday.
Yeah.
Almost an exact reenactment of what happened on January 6th. We are the shining example of democracy for the rest of the world. And if we don't get it right here, other democracies are going to suffer. And we have been struggling to get it right here for a long time.
Yes.
We don't get me wrong, great country. Government's just broken. And our culture is broken. Now, how do we get it back? I don't know. The first thing is maybe get closer to God, number one. Number two, understand that we are neighbors. We are supposed to maybe not like each other, but we have to love each other.
True.
Dr. King, the man that you have behind you on your beautiful display back there, and the man I have on this wall back here, you should say something about love and hate and what love can do to hate. And we've got to remember, we've got to learn how to love one another, right? And some people make it very difficult. I get it. They make it very difficult. And the only way that you can love some people is through God's intervention. But again, I guess we're going back to love. And, I'm a therapist, I'm experienced, but there's some things you just got to go to God about.
Yep. Amen to that.
There's some things, and there's a lot of things that we have to need to go to God about with what's going on in society, including why is the airports all shut down?
The airport?
Yeah. The FAA says air traffic operations are resuming gradually, but this morning, all the flights were stopped. Did you know that?
No, but I'm looking outside now that they're actually getting foggy outside now. Was that all over the whole United States or just
The whole United States? It wasn't just San Antonio. It wasn't the fog, brother. It was something else. They think that there might have been some type of cyber attack. They think.
yeah.
There's no evidence of cyber attack at this point, but the president has directed DOT to conduct a full investigation into the causes, and the FAA will provide regular updates. Look, I need them to get these airlines together now.
Yeah.
We having too many issues. They shutting down all the planes, man. What is going on?
It was a computer outage. That's what I'm reading right now. That result in delay quickly. But they got the system up and running right now, but they claim it was a computer outage that did that. So maybe it was somebody tampering with some stuff.
As Glenn would say, probably China. I don't.
Hey,
I don't
hey,
know.
hey, I had enough of y'all yesterday. They said somebody told me yesterday, look at these two right here. I said, I don't know why you asking me. I instigate all that.
Yeah,
That's what I
you,
told
you you didn't start it this time. I got my
yeah,
new iPhone Pro Max, so I had to show out.
yeah.
On Glenn's Android, and
Oh man,
you
y'all,
know,
y'all too much.
it's
Okay.
all good.
Yeah, I'm seeing right here that it says more than 3,700 flights were delayed and more than 640 was canceled. FAA order departing flights grounded early Wednesday morning, but lifted the order just before 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. They say it was a computer outage. That's what they say. So
Yeah, well, I tell you what, I don't know. I don't remember. I don't ever remember the whole country shutting down from a computer issue.
Yeah.
Uh, now I remember, we've had shutdowns before, but it's typically for weather. We've had some other things, but I'd be interested. It'd be interesting to know how this one came about.
Yeah, because the last real shutdown we had was 9/11,
Right?
and everything was shut down.
Yeah.
So, which, you know what? I got a couple questions for you. Boy,
Yes.
we're going from one extreme to another.
Yeah, we do.
I got I got
ADHD.
yeah. I got a question where it came from Beverly. Um,
Okay.
she was talking about mental health and all that, but she brought up a good point when I was reading her question. She said, years ago, and probably still going to this day, monarchy, they will keep it within the family, which she brought up inbreeding in the family. And some of that happened when the inbreeding had some of the offspring didn't come out too good. And she was wondering with that right there, is that a mental health issue when you inbreed in your offsprings and they lock them up in a closet somewhere because it's a product of inbreeding. And she said, what does that have to do with mental health?
Wow. Well, I think you said a mouthful right there. I mean, I don't really have to really respond too much to it. You know, well, you talked about three different areas, man. You and these loaded questions, Ron. I'm telling you. All
Well,
right, so
it's not me; it's the listeners sending these questions.
yeah, so is that Barbara that sent that question?
Beverly.
Beverly. All right. Well, thank you, Beverly, for getting my. I'm drinking water, not coffee, but I'm trying to address this question. So, if you understand the history of like monarchies and authoritarian style governments where they had an elite class of people, they kind of had to keep the bloodline going, and sometimes that led to some interesting situations happening where people were um, marrying too close, to keep the bloodline going, and it led to a lot of issues, a lot of illnesses, organs not functioning correctly. I mean, there's some really sick and sad stuff that happens when you know you inbreed, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
And that was what was going on. And you can look that information up, see what happens, when that happens. But I would almost guarantee you that there is a psychological issue that happens when you're a product of, and when you're participating in a situation where you're inbreeding, right? We have a tendency in this country to be very segregated, right? And there was efforts that kept us segregated in this country. There are areas in this country have sundown towns, and there are people that don't want anybody but a certain group of people. There was an area in Florida where pretty much a lot of inbreeding is going on, or was going on at that time. And a lot of those folks, they look different. They look a lot different, right?
Yeah.
And there was all kind of issues that came about from that, and it's kind of scary to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So everybody look up Hog Valley in Florida, and you tell me what you think if you find that out. But in terms of the direct diagnosis for inbreeding, I have no idea. I'll have to look that up and get back with you on exactly what kind of psychological disorders can come about from inbreeding. But just the whole fact that you're putting somebody away. Why are you putting them away, right?
Yeah.
What is it you're afraid of? And that's what used to happen with people with mental illness, right? You used to tuck them away and try to kind of keep them from the public, right? Well, now I think we've got some different treatment options, and we've gotten a lot better in some regards, and I think a lot worse in some regards. When we used to have mental health institutions for people And not saying that everything was right that was going on in those mental
Yeah.
health institutions, but now what is the primary mental health institution? Prison.
Yeah. Where they get no help.
Well, they got people coming in and they have mental health. I know quite a few people that come into the prisons to provide mental health services. And some people, that's the only way they can get mental health services. If they feel like they commit a crime, right? But there are some outlets. We talked about Pound 988 for people that are feeling like they might have suicidal ideation, or they might harm themselves, or they can hit Pound 988 and get access to some help. VA has some definitely some good options and ways of helping. If you call in, they always have on their line. If you feel like harming yourself, there's counselors available, etc. But for everybody else, for all the things in between, we've kind of we have some work to do, put it like that, and
Yeah.
getting the resources out there. But I think that it's a scary thing when you talk about inbreeding. You talk about you know what can happen from that. There's people finding out that they're married and siblings. You know,
Yes.
I saw that article, and this couple had been married for 15 years, had kids, and they found out they were brothers and sisters. I was like, oh my God, this made me sick. But unfortunately, what's that song by the Temptations? Papa was a Rolling Stone.
So wherever his hat was his home. Now, when you brought that up, when people marry, they don't know if there's brothers or sisters. Back in the olden days, there was a Bible, and Big Mama was in charge of that Bible. She wrote everything down that Bible, kids, who the parents was, and everything was in that Bible. So you knew, all right, nah, don't want to mess with him or her. That's your cousin.
Yeah,
So they will have everything. Some Bibles, I mean, they were just there. When I went to my family reunion one year in Toilet, Arkansas, it's not toilet, it's Toilet, Arkansas. There was a guy there that my mom introduced us to. He had the Bible. He had everything in that Bible where people move to. You name it. You want to ask him about something, he'll look at that Bible. Oh, that's so and so boy right there. That's his cousin. That's his grandfather. Everything was in there. Now we got this ancestry deal that you could log on to, give you a blood sample, and they let you know who you related to. And that's not always accurate, okay? Because mine told me my brother and sisters, and I said, wait a minute, something wrong with this. But then it goes down to your first cousin, second cousin, third cousin. It goes all the way down the line. So I look at people's name on there and say, I don't even know these folks, but yet they're in the bloodline.
yeah,
So, I know we went off base on that, but that's something you got to look at sometimes. You got to look at, like, I seen repeat what you just said. These two were dating and they were serious. They were going to get married. And then somebody stepped in and told me, that's your sister. And they were devastated because they didn't know.
yeah. Well, I'm going to be perfectly honest. My dad wasn't in the picture for a lot of years in my life. And when I got the age I started dating, that's one of the reasons why I reached out to my dad. I knew I had siblings out there. We were in a small community. I wanted to know who my sisters were. Now, the interesting thing was when I met my sisters, I knew those were my sisters, right? I just
Yeah.
when they walked up, I knew they were my sisters, right? I just knew. So, and I knew that nothing would, have ever jumped off because I
Yeah.
could just tell that we related. You know what I'm saying? But think about how many other people, don't have that luxury, of maybe finding out that maybe the dad is deceased or dad is just, completely moved on or whatever the case may be. And, you're just out there. Right.
Yeah.
So it's something that could happen. It's scary. And I think we need to maybe look into, I may pull up some stuff and maybe see what exactly are the phenomenon, the scenarios psychologically that can happen
Yeah.
because of that. But just the stigma itself and the trauma.
Mm,
of that, and then having to put that, because like you just said, like like the families have their family trees and all that. That's an interesting part of the tree when you
yeah.
got siblings that married each other.
It was a program we were watching one time. I forget get the name of it, but Niecy was in it. She's on the FBI show right now. But it was a program she was on where these people called this one guy Uncle Daddy. He's your uncle and daddy, and that's what they call him, Uncle Daddy.
Oh Lord.
So
So I don't even want to touch, man. I don't even want to touch that. Okay.
yeah. All right.
Uncle Daddy, huh?
I'll move on to the next question. This was we asked this before, but this listener wants to know again.
Well, let's address this for 1 minute because I like to answer uh questions when they get so it's a lot of stuff as I thought. Good Lord. So inbreeding increases the risk of recessive gene disorders. Inbreeding also increases the risk of disorders caused by recessive genes and can lead to abnormalities. Let me see. What are some of the things that it could? I don't even know if I want to know. So here's some of the specific disorders associated with inbreeding: schizophrenia, limb malformation, blindness, congenital heart disease, neonatal diabetes. Um, Take a look at the House of Habsburg for the best example of the effects of inbreeding.
Mm,
Um, it's miscarriages, stillbirths. Now that's interesting, right? There seems to be a natural um, thing that's going on, and maybe even a spiritual thing that's going on because it's affecting the generational continuation.
right,
Stillbirths and miscarriages. That's somebody saying, "Hey, you shouldn't be doing this." Right.
right,
And remember, if you watch even like Game of Thrones and all these other shows that talk about, these are fake shows, but they talk about some of the things, they base it on reality. But there were a lot of times kings had a hard time having kids. Why is that? Well, maybe part of it was because the bloodline was maybe a little too close. And there seems to be a natural deterrent because if you know anything about schizophrenia, um, that's really not one you want to have.
yeah,
Audible voices. Uh, schizophrenia is a serious mental illness. One of the top, serious illnesses that are out there that leads to possible inpatient treatment and requires some serious assistance, but then all these other things that go along with it. So yeah, there's some serious things that can go on with inbreeding. And I got this from wellbeingport.com, and you can take a look at the other things. We just wanted to kind of give some concrete answers to you
yeah.
know to that. So
Wow.
so what else? What else? We got. What other questions? Since
All
we're
right.
hitting all the easy ones.
I'm looking at the time, but we got time for one last question.
All right.
I think we addressed this one time before, but the lady name is Lucy, and she wanted to know mental health, is it in our DNA to pass on to our offsprings?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We've talked about this before, but yeah, I think it's good to mention. We are finding out more and more that mental health issues are connected through genetics. One of the questions that most therapists ask when they're doing an assessment on someone is, did your parents or grandparents have any mental illness that you know of?
Yeah.
And I've been in the room where one parent will say, if I'm evaluating a child, one parent will say, no, we don't have any history that I know of. And then another parent will look and say, do you want me to tell it, or are you going to tell it?
Yeah.
And then it starts coming out. Yeah, I had a parent that had, schizophrenia, or I had a grandparent that had depression, anxiety. I had one parent, that committed suicide, or whatever the case may be. And then you start seeing, okay, and that actually is factored into the evaluation of if a person is, it's a risk factor, right?
Yeah.
If you have a family history of mental illness, then whatever I'm looking at that you're presenting, I'm going to look at that as a risk factor, that there may be something genetic that's going on, that could have passed on, that this current client is possibly dealing with. So
Yeah.
yes, so the answer to the question in short, yes,
Yes.
there is a genetic component that we
Yeah.
look at in evaluating mental illness. And also, that's something that you need to think about. If you deal with depression, if you deal with anxiety, if you've been diagnosed with bipolar, and you start to see certain traits in your child, children cannot be diagnosed with mental disorders for the most part. Now, there are some things like ADHD and things of that nature that they can, but like things like schizophrenia, you're not supposed to diagnose a child with schizophrenia, because children have, active imaginations,
Mm-hmm.
and some kids have imaginary friends, right? And that in schizophrenia sometimes looks similar. But I've seen kids present with signs of schizophrenia, the flat affect, you know, um, start, hearing audible sounds and all that type of stuff. And I can almost tell that, okay, in a couple of years, this child was most likely going to be diagnosed with schizophrenia. However, you don't diagnose children with things like that, right? You have to have some other factors, but you can be aware that this might be something that might come about as you get older. Generally, schizophrenia presents in, college, because one of the triggers for schizophrenia is stress. So a lot of times, college or in late, in high school, right before the kids turn 18,
Yeah.
you start noticing the signs, and have to address it. And if you have that in your family history, that's part of that. We talked about this earlier, and I'm glad it kind of came full circle. Hiding these issues, putting them away, means that other family members might not know that you have some psychological issues that are running in your family. A lot of issues in the African American community and other communities of color are not known because we hide things. What's that thing? What happens in this house stays in this house,
Yeah.
which is one of the biggest lies and illusions that we put out there. What happens in a person's house very seldom ends in that house. It usually goes on to the next generation's household, or ends up spilling out into the community.
Yeah.
So it needs to be addressed. Mental illness, you have to put out there that, yes, we have this in our family, so that if your son or daughter or grandchild starts presenting with certain things, you say, okay, you need to look into that. You need to check into that.
Right.
Because we had a family member commit suicide. We had a family member that, had to be, institutionalized because they were hearing voices and all that type of stuff. We got to start being real with each other, and especially in your own family, so that a child can get help and understand what the heck is going on. Because unfortunately, I know of children that have committed suicide because they were presenting with psychological, disorders, and they didn't know what to do about it. And they knew their other friends were having these issues. So instead of dealing with it, they felt like they were the odd person out, led to depression, and then led to, suicide.
Yeah.
So it can be a serious thing if you don't address it.
Yes. Whew. All right. 34 minutes after the hour. It has, remember I said top hour wasn't foggy, it's sunshine. Well, the dense
Mhm.
fog is here now.
Well,
So
yeah, San Antonio's big, brother. So
yeah, yeah, I know.
how many times have you had it storming and raining on one side of San Antonio and it's completely sunny on
Oh
the
yeah,
other side of town,
happens
right?
all the time. Happens all the time.
Problem of living in a big city, but also a blessing, right? We
Amen.
get all the weather. Like I got this on now. I doubt that I'm gonna have this on for the rest of the day,
Yeah,
but
supposed to
it's chilly.
get to 82 degrees today. So
See, you got to wear shorts and a sweater when
yep,
that's around here,
yep.
in San Antonio. So, but hey, man,
All right, my brother.
again, as we wrap up, action speaks so loudly, I can't hear a word you're saying. Right? That's what we go out with, and thank everybody for listening and sending those questions, and we'll try to do the best we can to answer. Right?
All right. Appreciate it, Joseph.
No problem.
You stay out of trouble because I
Well, you know me.
stay away from Glenn.
Hey, man, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. All right, man. You have a good one. All
Oh, you
right.
too. Bye bye.
Okay. All right. Bye.